we're changing songs here real quick because my girlfriend figured out a better song. We are talking serial killers tonight, specifically the Zodiac Killer, because it's my girlfriend's favorite. And it's interesting. We still don't know who the fuck he is. Although Lena asked, wasn't it Arthur Allen as the killer? But my girlfriend looks that up because at this current moment in history, there came out that they did DNA tests and they think they know who the Zodiac Killer was. But I am reading this off of the Britannica to give some people some background. So, the Zodiac Killer is known as an unidentified American serial killer who is believed to have murdered at least 5 people in Northern California between 1968 and 1969. An earlier murder, the stabbing death of an 18-year-old college student in Riverside, California in 1966, is also sometimes attributed to the Zodiac Killer. In 1968, a teenage couple was shot to death near their car in a remote area of San Francisco. 1 year later, another couple was attacked in similar circumstances, though the male victim survived. After the 1969 attack, the killer phoned police to alert them to the crime and to take responsibility for the 1968 murders. Later that year, the Zodiac Killer attacked another young couple, though once again the male survived. The last known victim, a taxi driver, was shot in October 1969. No, the Zodiac Killer was not caught. However, they did announce a few months ago, I believe, that they did DNA tests and they believe they know who it is. My girlfriend's looking up that information for you guys. The murderers were the subject of intense investigation and media coverage, particularly because of the killer's taunting letters to the newspapers and phone calls to the police. His letters sent from 1969 to 1974 were signed with a symbol resembling the crosshairs of a gunshot and typically began with the phrase, "This is the Zodiac speaking." Included among the letters were 4 ciphers or cryptograms, the first of which was sent in 3 parts to 3 Bay Area newspapers in July 1969. Known as the 408 cipher for the number of characters it contained, it was soon decoded by a pair of private citizens. Its message stated in part that, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." Another cipher, the 340 cipher mailed to San Francisco Chronicle in November 1969, was finally decoded in 2020 by a team of 3 amateur code breakers. Its message began, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. Much remains mysterious about the Zodiac case, not least the issue of when the crime stopped." Did you find...
Yes, I found an article on Arthur Lee Allen.
Okay, so my girlfriend found who you're talking about, Lena.
So, born in Honolulu, Hawaii on December 18th, 1933, Arthur Lee Allen became probably the most scrutinized of all the suspects attached to the case, but to this day the crime remains unsolved. Allen was also the only suspect to be served with search warrants by police, but as yet no definitive evidence has directly implicated him in any of the crimes, despite several key pieces of circumstantial evidence pointing in his direction. Moreover, DNA and fingerprints lifted from several items connected with the crimes have failed to produce any match, including fingerprints retrieved from the taxicab murder of Paul Stein on October 11, 1969, and a palm print lifted from the Exorcist letter on January 29, 1974, and in 2002, DNA, now widely discredited, extracted from stamps and envelopes from the Zodiac letters, failed to implicate Allen or his former friend, Don Chaney. Recent discoveries on this website validating the April 24, 1978 letter as a genuine Zodiac correspondence has poured huge doubt on Arthur Lee Allen as the Bay Area murder, with Allen's DNA not having matched that extracted from the 1978 letter. Of course, the person who licked the envelope and stamps could be different to the murderer of 5 people, but it is not the likeliest of the 2 options. Don Chaney was the first to alert police to Allen as a possible suspect after numerous conversations he had had with Allen, apparently suggesting a link to the crime. With Allen supposedly telling Cheney he wanted to kill couples at random, called himself the Zodiac, and would use a flashlight attached to his gun to aid hunting at night. Another discrepancy attaching Allen to the Zodiac crimes is the fact the best-known composite sketch of the killer bore little, if any, resemblance to Arthur Lee Allen. He also underwent handwriting tests that the police had prepared for him using the relevant pens and involving particular words found in the letter, with a handwriting expert determining there was no correlation between the Zodiac letters and the handwriting Allen submitted to them. However, Allen did own a Zodiac watch adorned with the now infamous crosshair symbol given to him by his mother in 1967, and had connections with the U.S. Navy after enlisting in 1957, which could have linked him to the 10.5 size Wing Walker military-style boot found to have made the footprint impressions during the Lake Berryessa attack on Brian Calvin Hartnell and Cecil Ann Shepard, and Allen wore 10.5 shoes. Additionally, in a confession to police, he revealed he was in possession of knives covered in blood on the day of the Lake Berryessa attack, but stated that they were used to kill a chicken. On October 6, 1969, 10 days after the Lake Berryessa attack, Sergeant John Lynch from the Vallejo Police Department interviewed Arthur Lee Allen, with Allen stating that he had traveled to Salt Point Ranch, located on the coast due west of Napa, on September 26, 1969, for a spot of scuba diving. On September 27, 1969, the day of the Lake Berryessa attack, he claimed he returned to the Vallejo area and remained at home for the rest of the day. During further investigation on August 4, 1971, Detective Jack Mulnox, along with inspectors Dave Toshi and Bill Armstrong, headed to the place Arthur Lee Allen now worked, an oil refinery in Panola, California, made famous for the restroom interview featured in the 2007 movie Zodiac. He was once again questioned about his movements during the day of the Lake Berryessa attack, recalling his prior interview with Sergeant John Lynch, claiming that he had made conversation with a serviceman and his wife that day. Furthermore, he claimed that he had spoken to an elderly neighbor, William White, in Vallejo at approximately 4 p.m. that afternoon. However, this could not be corroborated because William White had died only a week after this alleged conversation. Then they noticed he was wearing a Zodiac watch with the cross circle logo. Allen appeared eager to divulge information, no matter that it only seemed to draw suspicion towards him. He stated that he had read The Most Dangerous Game at high school and had also been in the region of Riverside, California, an area possibly connected to the Zodiac case with respect to the murder of Cherry Jo Bates along the Riverside City College Library on October 30th, 1966. Then parted with a veiled insult, looking forward to a time when people no longer referred to police officers as pigs. Investigators interviewed Arthur Lee Allen's sister-in-law, Karen Allen, to collect as much information that they could on their prime suspect. And although she found the Zodiac connection unlikely, Allen had some unsettling issues with children, apparently unable to cement any meaningful relationships with women of his own age. After being shown several pieces of Zodiac correspondence, in particular the Melvin Belly letter mailed to the Belly residence at 1228 Montgomery Street in San Francisco on December 20th, 1969, it was claimed she pointed out her brother-in-law would condense the spoken phrase trigger mechanism to trigger mech, as well as having received a Christmas greeting card from Arthur Lee Allen using the double S spelling of Christmas. She also alluded to the fact that Arthur Lee Allen was left-handed, but had learned to write with his right hand under pressure from his school teachers. Arthur Lee Allen's brother, Ronald Allen, believed it was unlikely that Donald Cheney would make up stories if they were not correct. There were further stories that Donald Cheney had confided to Ron that Arthur Lee Allen had made an inappropriate sexual advance involving touching the child concerning one of his children. But in an interview by Tom Voyett with Donald Cheney's daughter, it was revealed that never happened. with Donald Cheney remaining friends with Allen years after the alleged assault. Therefore, the claims that Donald Cheney sent investigators in the direction of Arthur Lee Allen as a form of revenge does not hold any water. He also owned a Royal typewriter, which police removed from Allen's home, similar to one that produced the confession letter in connection to the unsolved stabbing of Cherry Joe Bates outside the River City College Library. Plus, he was identified as the killer by Michael Magoo, who survived the attack on the Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo on July 4th, 1969. However, this identification from a photographic lineup more than 2 decades later are inherently flawed. So, it goes on to more information about where connections are made between Arthur Lee Allen and the Zodiac. So it was never confirmed that Arthur Lee Allen is the Zodiac. It's just a very big likely possibility because there are a lot of weird connections that come up when you look at where he is, what he was doing, things he's been stating.
We also need to point out the fact that police, as far as even today, have 5 major suspects, and Allen was only one of them.
Correct.
So, but since we're talking serial killers, let's actually get into the fun part. You know, the murder.
Yeah.
So these are brief overviews of the murders that are confirmed. And then we can go into detail of each of them. So, although the Zodiac claimed to have killed 37 people in letters to the newspaper, investigators agreed on only 7 confirmed victims, 2 of whom survived. If you want to look up details on each one.
I've got that already.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first one was David Arthur Faraday. He's 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, who was 16. They were shot and killed on December 20th, 1968 on Lee Harmon Road within the city limits of Bentica. Then you have...
Hold on. What is your source? Because I have different information.
Wikipedia.
Okay. You want me to actually read
Yeah,
this?
go for it. Go for it. I'll find a better site.
His first known victim was a 17-year-old boy named David Faraday and his girlfriend Betty Lou Jensen, who were murdered on December 20th, 1968. They were out on their first date and had parked their car in a remote area on the outskirts of Vallejo, California, referred to as Lover's Lane. As per forensic reports, the killer had driven up in another car and approached the couple on foot. The boy was shot in the head when he was exiting the stationary car, while the girl was shot 5 times in the back while trying to run away.
Okay. Here, I'm going to the History Channel for the timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that, like, we were getting the right information.
Right, fair. Okay, so the History Channel has more in-depth of that night. So speaking of the first murder that was confirmed, 5 nights before Christmas, high school student Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday set out on their first official date together, promising Betty Lou's parents they'd be home by 11 p.m. Shortly after that time, passing motorists saw the Rambler and its occupants parked at Lover's Lane Spa along Lake Herman Road in Bennica, California. Moments later, another driver noticed 2 seemingly lifeless bodies on the side of the road. Bennica police and others responded to the scene and discovered Betty Lou dead with 5 bullet wounds in her back. David was found next to the Rambler with a bullet wound in his head, still breathing, but near death. Bullet holes in the car roof and back window indicated that the killer may have fired warning shots to force the victims out of the vehicle. Shell casings recovered at the crime scene identified ammunition as Winchester Western Super X copper-coated. Ballistics evidence indicated that the killer used a .22 caliber, possibly a J.C. Higgins Model 80 semi-automatic pistol. The investigators believe the 2 teenagers were likely random targets killed by a stranger for unknown reasons. What's the next victims, babe?
This was followed by the July 4th, 1969 shooting of 22-year-old Darlene Farron and her 19-year-old boyfriend, Mike Magoo. Now, keep in mind, I just previously stated that Mike Magoo identified Arthur Lee Allen as who assaulted them. So that is something that needs to be kept in mind, but that was also 2 decades later that he identified him. Under similar conditions, they were sitting in their parked car in a remote location in Blue Rock Spring Park, Vallejo, just 4 miles away from the site of the first murder. Farron was killed on the spot while Magoo was seriously injured. Later during the day, the police station received a phone call from a man claiming responsibility for both the incidents. Magoo described the shooter as a 5'8" white man around 30 years old with light brown curly hair. However, no headway could be made in identifying the killer.
And a little more in depth of what actually happened that night. 22-year-old Darlene Farron was a wife, mother, and a popular waitress at Valjo's restaurant. On the night of July 4th, she picked up her friend Michael Magoo and stopped her Corvair in the parking lot of the Blue Rock Springs Park. Michael later told police that another vehicle pulled into the lot around midnight and then left only to return minutes later. The driver got out of the car, shined a bright light, and fired into the Corvair with a 9mm handgun. Michael was shot in the jaw, shoulder, and leg. Darlene was hit several times. At 12:40 p.m., in a call later traced to a gas station payphone, a man rang the Valjo Police Department and claimed responsibility for the shooting as well as the murders on Lake Herman Road. According to the police dispatcher, the caller spoke in a low monotonous voice saying, "I want to report a murder. If you will go 1 mile east onto Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." Darlene died on arrival at the hospital, but Michael survived. Investigators were unable to identify any viable suspects. And this is also what led into letters. So the Vallejo Times Herald letter was received July 31st, 1969. The San Francisco Examiner letter was also received the same day as was the San Francisco Chronicle letter, and the San Francisco Examiner letter got another letter on August 4th, 1969. Do you think there were copycats?
During the time of the murders, no, I do not think there were copycats. However, because of the fact that there were 37 possible murders, but only 5 were attached.
Seven were attached.
5 murders.
5 murders, 7 people.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I do think that some of those 37 were most likely copycats, the ones that followed after they stopped receiving letters.
It was either copycats or it's gang warfare, because similar drive-by shootings happen. The method of his kills are very much ritualistic, but they're also common especially in the area of California he's in. So here's here's small details of each of the letters. The first letter, which was sent to the Valjo Times Herald, postmarked July 31st, 1969. The writer claimed responsibility for the 2 shootings and provided details about the victims, the weapons, the number of shots fired, and brand of ammunition. The second letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, postmarked July 31st, 1969. One of 3 virtually identical letters accompanied by 1/3 of a cipher. The writer demanded publication of the letters in the cipher by Friday, August 1st. Letter to the San Francisco Examiner, postmarked July 31st, 1969. The writer threatened to kill again if the newspapers did not publish the cipher, which included the words, "I like killing people because it's so much fun." There was a 3-page letter received by the Examiner on August 4th, 1969, sent in response to police asking for information to prove the writer actually committed the murders. This was the first use of the name, the Zodiac. And then a fifth letter was received, a Zodiac message on a car door. Or it was the Lake Berisha murders on September 27th, 1969. The Zodiac left a message on the car door. And so we'll go into those victims.
On September 27th, 1969, the killer approached another young couple who were sitting together at an isolated spot on the shore of Lake Berryessa. He was wearing a hooded sweatshirt with a circle and a cross on it. He tied the couple with a rope before brutally stabbing them with a knife and left after drawing a circle and a cross on their car door. The 22-year-old girl, Cecil Shepard, died 2 days later in the hospital, while the 20-year-old boy, Brian Hartnell, survived to tell his tale. This was the first incidence where they noticed that the Zodiac had switched from using a gun to a knife, and so that was, they actually thought that originally was a copycat murder.
Also, Lena asked, and I answered her, but I want to get your opinion. Do you think he had a connection to law enforcement and used his knowledge to evade capture?
I think, yes, he did have a connection to law enforcement because of the fact, but I don't think it was necessarily police officers like at police precinct, but because of the fact that there is a lot of speculation that leads to the fact that the Zodiac had military connections. So I think he had connections through military police at the time.
Meaning he would know police routes, police patrols, so he would know what times to go and not. So a little more in-depth on the next murders. On a Saturday in late September, college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing along the shore of Lake Berisha, some 30 miles north of Napa, California. A man appeared holding a gun and wearing a hooded costume with a white cross circle stitched over the chest, explaining that he had escaped from a prison and needed money and a car to escape to Mexico. The stranger bound their wrists with pre-cut lengths of plastic clothesline. Without warning, he plunged a large knife into Brian's back 6 times. He then stabbed Cecilia 10 times as she fought for her life. The man then walked to Brian's car and used a pen to draw a cross circle on the door with the dates and locations of the previous attacks. The date, September 27, 69, the time, 6:30, and the notion, by knife. At 7:40 p.m., a man called the Napa Police Department to report a double murder. The caller described Brian's car, directed police to the scene of the crime, and confessed, "I'm the one who did it." The police traced the call to a payphone at a car wash in Napa. Cecilia died 2 days later, but Brian survived. And the message written onto the passenger door of Hartnell's Volkswagen, which included the dates of the 2 shootings. Cheryl Wood Morrill, the California Police Department of Justice Documents Examiner, concluded that the door message was written by the author of the Zodiac letters.
And that's actually where one of the things that is really kind of interesting about the Zodiac Killer is he didn't follow the normal de-evolutions that a serial killer does. The Zodiac actually, a lot of times serial killers will find easier ways within their scope of how they kill to kill, but he got more complicated with his murders.
It also needs to be noted that technically, at least according to Britannica.com and their history of the Zodiac, he is actually classified as a serial murderer, not a serial killer.
Correct.
So, same kind of situation, but the terms are a bit different. Okay, so next event is October 11th, 1969. San Francisco Chronicle receives a letter. And this comes with the San Francisco murders.
On October 11th, 1969, a man hired a cab driven by Paul Stein in San Francisco and for no known reason shot him in the head with a 9mm pistol. He took away his wallet, the car keys, and a piece of his blood-stained shirt in front of shocked witnesses and vanished from the scene. He was described as a white man between 30 to 40 years old, about 5'8". 3 days later, the Chronicle received a letter which claimed responsibility for the killing, along with the piece of the bloodstained cloth. He claimed to be the Zodiac and gave a warning that his next target will be school children.
So, little more in depth on the San Francisco attacks and what the History Channel has to say about it. Paul Stein, a 28-year-old student and husband, worked as a cab driver in San Francisco. That night, Stein picked up a fare headed for a destination in an upscale Predesto Heights neighborhood. At the intersection of Washington and Cherry Streets, the passenger shot Stein in the head and removed a piece of the victim's shirt. The man walked away just before police arrived, but the police radio broadcast mistakenly described the suspect as a black man, and passing officers dismissed a white man resembling the correct description. Fingerprints found on the driver's side of the cab may have belonged to the killer, and a sketch was produced based on the descriptions provided by witnesses. This is the picture that I have posted. This is the sketch artist's rendition of what was seen. The case was considered a routine robbery until the office of the San Francisco Chronicle received an envelope with a letter from the Zodiac, which began with the words, "I'm the murderer of the taxi driver." The envelope was also contained a bloodstained piece of Paul Stein's shirt. The Zodiac denied he left fingerprints and claimed the police sketch was inaccurate because he had worn a disguise. The letter to the Chronicle, postmarked October 13th, 1969, the writer mocked police for failing to catch him and threatened to shoot children on a school bus. The envelope contained a piece of the bloodstained shirt belonging to victim Paul Stein. Three more letters were received. San Francisco Chronicle envelope was received November 8th, 1969. San Francisco Chronicle 7-page letter was November 9th, 1969. And then letter was addressed to famous attorney Melvin Belly, postmarked December 20th, 1969. So the envelope that went to the Chronicle, postmarked November 8th, 1969, contained another piece of the cab driver's shirt, a humorous greeting card, and another cipher consisting of 340 symbols. The writer added Des, July, August, September, October equals 7, a possible reference to more unidentified victims. The 7-page letter to the Chronicle, which was postmarked the next day, the longest message from Zodiac, claimed that the police stopped him near a crime scene but let him go. Zodiac also included a bomb recipe and a diagram of an explosive. The letter that was addressed to the attorney Melvin Belly, postmarked December 20th, 1969, the writer feared he would kill again and asked Belly to intercede. The letter ended, "Please help me. I cannot remain in control for much longer." And then we have another killing. Attack. Possibly the Zodiac. Is that on your list? March 22nd, 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On March 22nd, 1970, Kathleen Johns was driving her car with her 10-month-old daughter from San Bernardino to Petaluma when a car behind her started honking and flashing its lights. When she pulled up, the driver of the car told her that her wheel was wobbling and offered to tighten it for her. However, after he had finished tightening the wheel, she started to drive. Her car, the wheel came off. The man offered to drop her to the next gas station to get help, but after she got into his car, he drove past several gas stations without stopping. Fortunately for the woman, the man had to stop at an intersection where she jumped out of his car with her daughter and hid in the fields. Later, she recognized the man from a sketch developed by the police, which is why it is considered that this is connected to the Zodiac, but never confirmed because she identified the original Zodiac sketch, but the original Zodiac sketch matches a lot of people.
Yes, because as we can see, it is a very vague kind of general white-looking man. So, according to the History Channel, it is a possible Zodiac connection in the Modesto area. On a Sunday in late March, 22-year-old Kathleen Johns packed her infant daughter into a station wagon and left San Bernardino, California, to visit her sick mother in Petaluma, in the northern part of the state. Kathleen was also 7 months pregnant at the time with the child of her long-term boyfriend. As she traveled on Highway 132 near Modesto, another vehicle pulled alongside the station wagon, and the driver appeared to signal that Kathleen should pull over. On the side of the road, the driver explained that the back wheel of Kathleen's station wagon was loose, but he promised to fix the problem. Instead, he loosened the lug nuts and the wheel fell off as Kathleen tried to drive away. The man then offered to drive Kathleen to a gas station, but she climbed into his car and discovered he appeared to have other plans. She claimed he also made veiled threats to harm her child. Eventually, Kathleen grabbed her daughter and jumped from the car. A passing driver took Kathleen to a nearby police station where she identified the stranger from the police sketch of the Zodiac. Months later, a Zodiac letter mentioned a rather interesting ride with a woman and her baby. So that is why it is also linked. It's not just like her identification. So five more letters are received. One to the San Francisco Chronicle, April 20th, 1970. Included a 13-symbol cipher and a diagram of a bomb designed to kill children on the school bus. The Zodiac denied responsibility for the recent police bombing that killed an officer. A greeting card was sent to the Chronicle, postmarked April 28th, 1970. Inside the card, the Zodiac demanded publication of his bomb threats and insisted that the people of San Francisco Bay Area wear Zodiac buttons featuring his chosen symbol, the cross circle. Not right now. So the letter to the Chronicle, postmarked June 26, 1970, contained a map of the San Francisco Bay Area with a crossed circle on the peak of Mount Diablo and a code to locate the Zodiac's bomb. The writer claimed he killed again. Letter to the Chronicle, postmarked July 24th, 1970. The Zodiac complained that people weren't wearing his cross circle, Zodiac buttons, and he claimed that he was responsible for the failed abduction of the pregnant mother, Kathleen Johns, on March 22nd, 1970. 5-page letter went to the Chronicle, postmarked July 26, 1970. The Zodiac described torturing his victims and quoted from Gilbert and Sullivan's musical, The Minkado? I think is how Mikado. Minkado. The letter also explained that Mount Diablo code concerned geometric angles known as radians. And then we have another possible attack on September 6, 1970. Do you have that one? He could have been hunting for regular victims, kind of moving on to a different serial killer, but a similar type of idea is that, the BTK killer completely changed MOs, got himself his own little hole, and had several more victims that we don't know how many because several of them weren't found or buried on the property or what have you.
Right.
So it is
possible. I do not have the information on that one besides Diana Loss was her name. Donna Loss. But first, one of the things that is concerning about it is it's concerning that it seemed more like he wasn't killing for a reason like being told he had to kill or being having the urge to kill. It obviously he had the urge to kill, but these were random. And when people really kind of stopped giving a fuck about the Zodiac and stopped fearing him, he would escalate or he would vanish for months at a time.
Yes.
And then thus it would bring back that fear of where is he at? What is he doing? He was doing this for the attention.
he was getting off on the terror and attention that he could get from police.
The killings
from the
were
media.
not sexual in nature like a lot of serial killers. It was the attention that they were giving, which is a bad thing that the police on their end did. If they would have just stopped giving him attention, he would have made more mistakes.
The who is he, where he will strike next kind of fears. Yeah, you're right,
Yes.
Caddy. Okay, so this is another possible attack in Lake Tahoe. A postcard attributed to the Zodiac featured an advertisement for a condominium project in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, with the phrases past Lake Tahoe areas and sought victim 12. Some interpreted the cryptic message as a clue to the disappearance of 25-year-old Donna Lass. In May 1970, Donna worked in San Francisco at Letterman General Hospital, located on the Presidio military base near the area where the Zodiac killed a cab driver. Donna moved northeast to South Lake Tahoe and found work as a nurse for the Sahara Hotel and Casino. On September 6, 1970, Donna vanished sometime after the last entry in her work logbook at 1:50 a.m. Her car was later found abandoned near her apartment. According to some accounts, an unidentified man called Donna's employer and her landlord, claiming she had to leave town due to a family emergency. Donna's family told authorities there were no such emergency, and the man was never identified. Investigators suspected Donna had been abducted and killed, but her body was never found. Her disappearance remained a mystery, and her name was added to a long list of possible Zodiac victims. 4 more letters. Because he just kept fucking going. So, suspect Zodiac postcard was postmarked October 5th, 1970. With a message constructed with text clipped from other sources, the words, the pace isn't any slower. In fact, it's just one big, we're clipped from a comic strip, Smidgens. Halloween card sent to the Chronicle reporter Paul Avery, postmarked October 27th, 1970. The writer misspelled Avery's name as Averly, and the number 14, spelled 14, was interpreted as a possible reference to an unidentified 14th victim. Letters addressed to Los Angeles Times, postmarked March 13th, 1971. In it, Zodiac suggests he was responsible for the unsolved murder of Sherry Jo Bates near Riverside City College on October 30th, 1966. Do you want to look up that murder? Just so we can get the facts of that case, because I think that would be cool. Postcard to the Chronicle reporter Paul Avery, postmarked March 22nd, 1971. The writer again misspelled Avery's name as Averly. The phrase sought victim 12 was interpreted as a reference to Donna Lass's disappearance in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. So, Sherry Jo Bates, October 30th, 1966. Maybe he kept her in the basement or something. I mean, it's possible.
Yes, I think I found it.
You found it?
But one of the interesting things about the Zodiac Killer is everybody associated the cross and the circle as the crosshairs of a gun only because he used a gun. If you actually look at the way he dressed up, he dressed very much like a medieval times executioner who had that cross and circle embellished on their clothing. It is something that, and it has nothing to do with Norse mythology, but it's very well known. It looked a lot like Odin's cross. And his cryptograms were believed as to one of the reasons why it is the one that is supposedly to show his identity was written out the way it was is because his cryptograms were written in medieval English.
I also love the fact that you mentioned that it looks like Odin's cross because Odin is watching, just popped into the chat. So, like,
That's
timing.
awesome.
Like, timing. All right. So, what is that murder from 1966?
Okay. Yep, I think I got it. So, she was killed between 9:23 p.m. October 30th and 12:23 a.m. October 31st. The place of attack was an alley on the campus of Riverside City College in Riverside, California. A 1966 graduate of Riverside's Ramona High School, 18-year-old Sherry Jo Bates, was beaten and stabbed multiple times with a short-bladed knife. Her throat was also cut. There is no evidence of robbery or sexual molestation, and there was no witnesses. Bates had visited her college library, and police believe that was when her Volkswagen Beetle was disabled by her eventual killer. Her car was found approximately 100 yards from the alley where she was killed. A man's Timex watch with a band suggesting a 7-inch wrist was found at the scene, along with a military-style heel print, indicating a size 8 to 10 shoe. The origin of the watch was eventually traced to a military post, possibly in England. The shoes could have been sold at a nearby March Air Force base. Investigators established the watch was ripped from the attacker's wrist during the struggle. Although the watch stopped at 12:24, it is unknown exactly when the crime occurred, as Bates died very quickly. Zodiac was first considered a suspect in the Bates murder in October 1969 when the Riverside Police Department noted similarities between the Bates case and the Napa County Zodiac killing of September 27th,
The thing that's different about a verbal vacation.
1969. By November 1970, the news media had gotten wind of the
You always have the whole place to yourself.
And both the San Francisco Chronicle and Los Angeles Times published lengthy stories. Zodiac detectives from the San Francisco Bay Area met with investigators handling the Bates case, and the conclusion was made that the Zodiac was Sherry's killer. Eventually, the Zodiac sent a letter to the Los Angeles Times postmarked March 13th, 1971, accepting responsibility of the Bates crime. As in the subsequent Zodiac attacks, the Bates case saw police taunting letters written to the newspaper. A confession letter was mailed anonymously from Riverside on November 29, 1966, to both the Riverside Police Department and the Riverside Press Enterprise newspaper. It included details of the murder that had never been revealed by police. In December 1966, a desk with a morbid poem scratched into the surface was discovered in the college library. The writing was eventually attributed to the Zodiac Killer. Additionally, 3 other letters sent anonymously from Riverside on April 30th, 1967 to the above recipients, as well as the victim's father, Joseph, have been attributed to the Zodiac.
Yes, we are talking about the old Zodiac Killer. So, next event in the timeline. In search for new leads in the Zodiac case, led investigators across the United States to Albany, New York. The office of the Albany Times-Union newspaper received an envelope postmarked August 1st, 1973. Scary stuff. Yeah, I know, right? That I'm like, me and M are super into serial killers, and this is her favorite, so I thought we'd go through it. An envelope postmarked August 1st, 1973, with a crossed circle drawn in the corner instead of the return address. The letter read, "You are wrong. I am not dead or in the hospital. I am alive and well, and I'm going to start killing again. Below is the name and location of my next victim, but you had better hurry because I'm going to kill her. August 10th at 5 p.m. when the shift change. Albany is a nice town." Below the message, the writer included 3 rows of symbols. According to the FBI report, Bureau Crypto analysts deciphered the code message to read, and this is redacted, Albany Medical Center. This is only the beginning. Investigators were unable to identify any murders that could explain the vague reference to a victim on August 10th. Handwriting experts could not determine if the new letter was prepared by the writer of the Zodiac letters due to lack of significant characteristics in the Albany message, but this possibly could not be eliminated based on limited analysis. 4 more letters are shown. So we have the letter to the Chronicle, postmarked January 29th, 1974. The writer alluded to a possible suicide in another quote from the Gilbert and Sullivan musical, The Mikado. The notion Me 37 SFPD 0 was interpreted as a box score indicating 37 victims. Postcard to the Chronicle, postmarked February 14th, 1974. The writer referred to the SLA, or Symbionese Liberation Army, a group of militant urban guerrillas responsible for the abduction of newspaper heiress Patty Hersted. The message was signed, a friend. Which I kind of want you to look that up too, babe, when you get a second. Next, we have a card to the Chronicle, postmarked May 8th, 1974. This message from, quote, a citizen complained about the glorification of violence in newspaper ads for the movie The Badlands about the killing spree of Richard Starkweather and his 14-year-old girlfriend. Letter to the Chronicle, postmarked July 8th, 1974. The writer complained the Chronicle columnist Count Marco Spinelli suffered from a serious psychological disorder and should be sent back to in the hellhole. The letter was signed The Red Phantom.
What am I looking up?
The abduction of Patty Hersted, Hearst.
Patty Hearst?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay. You ready?
Yep, go for it.
Around 9 o'clock in the evening on February 4th, 1974, there was a knock on the door of apartment number 4 at 2603 Benaview Street in Berkeley, California. In burst a group of men and women with their guns drawn. They grabbed a surprised 19-year-old college student named Patty Hearst, beat up her fiancé, threw her in the trunk of their car, and drove off. This began one of the strangest cases in FBI history. Hearst, it was soon discovered, had been kidnapped by a group of armed radicals that billed themselves as the Symbionese Liberation Army, or SLA, led by a hardened criminal named Donald DeFries. The SLA wanted nothing less to incite a guerrilla war against the U.S. government and destroy what they called the capitalist state. Their ranks included women and men, blacks and whites, and anarchists and extremists from various walks of life. They were, in short, a band of domestic terrorists and dangerous ones. They'd already shot 2 Oakland school officials with cyanide-tipped bullets, killing one and seriously wounding the other. So why'd they snatch Hearst? To get the country's attention, primarily. Hearst was from a wealthy, powerful family. Her grandfather was the newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst. The SLA plan worked, and worked well. The kidnapping stunned the country and made front-page national news. But the SLA had more plans for Patty Hearst. Soon after her disappearance, the SLA began releasing audio tapes demanding millions of dollars in food donations in exchange for her release. At the same time, they apparently began abusing and brainwashing their captive, hoping to turn this young heiress from the highest reaches of society into a poster child for their coming revolution. this too seemed to work. On April 3rd, the SLA released a tape with Hearst saying that she joined their fight to free the oppressed and had even taken a new name. A dozen days later, she was spotted on bank surveillance cameras wielding an assault weapon during an SLA bank robbery, barking orders to bystanders and providing cover to her co-conspirators. Meanwhile, the FBI had launched one of the most massive, agent-intensive searches in its history to find Hearst and stop the SLA. Working with many partners, we ran down thousands of leads, but with the SLA frightening potential informants into silence, using good operational security, and relying on an organized network of safe houses, it was tough going. A break came in Los Angeles on May 16th. 2 SLA members tried to steal an ammunition belt from a local store and were nearly caught. The getaway van was discovered, which led authorities to an SLA safe house. The next day, the house was surrounded by LA police. A massive shootout ensued. The building went up in flames. 6 members of the SLA died in the blaze, including DeFreeze. But where was Hearst? She and several others had escaped and began traveling around the country to avoid capture. FBI agents, though, were close behind. We finally captured her in San Francisco on September 18, 1975, and she was charged with bank robbery and other crimes. Her trial was as sensational as the chase. Despite claims of brainwashing, the jury found her guilty, and she was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Hearst served 2 years before President Carter commuted her sentence. She was later pardoned. And the rest of the SLA, we caught up with them all. The last 2 members were arrested in 1999 and 2002.
Okay, so that is the entire timeline of the Zodiac. That's it. Do we want to go into ciphers? Because I pulled up a thing about the ciphers.
Go for it. I was going to look up where we could actually read all the letters.
Go for it. Do it. So this is still coming from history.com. So this is the History Channel's website. Okay, so let's talk about this for a moment while she looks up the letters, because I want the letters and correspondence to this. And we will talk about Gary Post. We will put that on the list, Lena. So Queen Caddy said that he really is enjoying this. This is his vibe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he said, my therapist says I'm deranged for finding these things appealing, so I wouldn't likely have my case dropped, which I find to be bullshit, because you know how many women are obsessed with true crime and serial killers? What the fuck? What is the problem? This stuff is fascinating because the psychology behind it and look, humanity is obsessed with 3 things: food, murder, and fucking. That's the whole list of shit. And to understand serial killers and the darkest parts of humanity help us be better people. Because we can start to understand and we can start to possibly help. We can start to save lives if we understand what is happening. Right? I watch true crime shows to fucking fall asleep to. I fell asleep to a podcast talking about the Candyman, which will be another subject we will cover in a different live, but this one is dedicated to the Zodiac, so that's why we aren't going into it. But yeah, I've always fallen asleep to listening to true crime, serial killers, creepypastas, horror stuff. That's my shit. So, quick recap of the Candyman. It was a serial killer in the 1960s, 50s, 60s. We'll talk about him in another podcast, I promise you, but today is about the Zodiac. Queenie really wants to come in, so my multi-guest wasn't supposed to be turned off, but all right. My aunt thinks she met him. I mean, that's cool.
So, to put it in a nutshell the best I can, because it's quite a mouthful if I were to try to type it out. So, when I was young, I was bullied my entire life. You already know about that. But, like, I've gone through a lot of therapists through my childhood who couldn't handle my, like, mental breaks and stuff like that due to my autism, and not enough people understood autism in the 90s. But one of
Right.
the things that one of my therapists were scared of happening because of how bad I was bullied is I would snap and become a serial killer. So it clicks in my head, what leads to that? So I started researching more and more and getting obsessed. Learned that my mom was almost a victim of Ted Bundy. And it started from there, where I was just absolutely passionate about, like, researching and reading about serial killers.
I just find them fascinating. I just, for
It's a
some
huge
reason,
red flag to my therapist that I'm into serial killers because
I'm
of my history of
sorry.
being
It's
bullied.
interesting. Like I like serial killers. Is that a fucking problem?
I think what my mental health providers are worried about with my obsession is I'll become one because of my history.
Mm,
But I don't see why they would be that paranoid over it when I obviously haven't snapped and I seek to understand them more rather than become them. Because you
right.
don't
And
just become a serial killer overnight. Like, it comes from
right.
years and years of abuse and trauma, and something finally clicks in you where you snap.
I do want to address MJ real quick because that is fucking insane. So he said my aunt thinks she met him. We lived in Vacaville, California during that time, close to Lake Berryessa, one of the murder sites. I remember swimming and playing there as a kid. That is fucking insane. That right there is fucking insane. But we're gonna move on to the ciphers, because these are the actual coded letters and messages that were sent to publications and police. M is trying to look up where to find them, but we're also feeding Spaz real quick.
Some of the letters are really hard to get your hands on.
Yes. Okay. So this is quoted from history.com, where I've been reading like the timeline and stuff. Um some have been broken while others remain stubbornly resistant to code crackers. This article specifically comes from August 22nd, 2018. Were you able to find where we can read any of them?
I have links to everything.
Okay.
Not just the cryptos, but everything down to the poem he had written.
Sweet. So I can go over this and then we'll go through each one.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. By the ciphers, do you think it was a plea to get caught?
No. Not at all. He was very much the person that got off on them not knowing who he was, hence why he is one of the very few serial killers that named
It's
himself.
like some people are turned on by hentai, and then there's others that are turned on by killing people and remaining an unknown mystery.
Yes, and then it also delves into the fact that the cipher that he sent out, that he specifically stated would lead him, then the police, to who he was exactly, never identified him.
So it was just bragging and taunting.
Exactly. He got off on knowing that he could get the attention, that people were terrified, and that the police were being shown to be idiots.
Okay, so first I'm going to read this little blurb, kind of a history. I will go over a basic description according to history.com, and then my girlfriend will look up the specific cipher and we will read them to you. So, killers usually go to great lengths to avoid the police and the media attention, but the self-proclaimed Zodiac, which my girlfriend just mentioned, is that he is one of the few serial killers who named himself, who terrorized the Bay Area in the late 1960s and early 1970s, was an exception. He called the police on 2 occasions to report murders he had committed and sent dozens of letters to newspapers. As a cryptologist, I am most interested in the 4 that came with the ciphers or coded messages. Some were quickly deciphered, but others have stymised the crypto community for decades. Below, I give a rundown of the killer's 4 codes and what progresses has been made to solve them. So, this actual article is written by somebody who himself is a cryptozoologist. So, that gives us a little more insight into all this bullshit. So, this is Z408, sent July 31st, 1969. The first cipher Zodiac created was his longest, 408 characters. The killer split it into 3 pieces of equal length and mailed 2 to the newspapers in San Francisco and 1 to a paper in nearby Valjo, demanding they be printed or he would go on a killing rampage. The ciphers were published. So who cracked it? Within about a week, Norse Stenalis school teacher Donald Herden and his wife Betty contacted the San Francisco Chronicle with their solution. Betty is credited with discovering 2 cribs, words or phrases suspected to appear in the message. Cribs are powerful cryptological tools because once a location or locations can be determined for them, several substitutions can be identified, which can accelerate the unraveling process. Inspired by the killer's obvious craving for attention, Betty guessed that the message would begin with the word I. She also believed the word kill or killing or even the phrase "I like killing" would appear somewhere in the message. Her guesses turned out to be correct. Do you want to read? Do you have that letter?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's read that.
The first 1/3 of the cipher is I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is so much more fun than killing wild game. Sorry, like trying to read it while it's with that.
Yeah.
Killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill something.
All right. So,
in many ways, it's like he enjoys the ultimate hunt, hunting his own kind for pure sport.
yes, which we've seen in many writings, including the story The Most Dangerous Game, which is a very old novel, which if you have not read it, I highly recommend. About a guy who is captured and put onto an island and hunted.
What I love about that book is there's no clear ending.
Right.
So, the second part of the cipher that was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle continues on. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. Now, a lot of people get it mixed up. It was not with a woman. It was with a girl. The best part of it... they have these all messed up. Hold on.
She's trying to code it real quick. Hang on. Like the site she has is apparently a little off.
Yeah. Best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn. In paradise. Mind you, he spelled paradise with a C, not an S. Every time he said the word paradise, it was Paradice.
Anagram.
That's another thing that they found really strange. Because he spelt most everything else right. He would spell paradise with a C and Christmas with 2 S at the end.
He used an anagram.
Yep. Paradise and all... I have killed will be my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife. And then at the end of that, there was a section of that cipher that was never solved. There was one more sentence after that they never solved.
And what's the third part?
That was the third part.
That was the third part? Okay.
Yes.
So, the next cipher that we have, Z340, sent November 8th, 1969. While Z408 required only 20-some hours for husband and wife team to solve, Zodiac's next cipher stumped everyone, experts and amateurs alike, for 51 years. Who cracked it? In December 2020, the FBI announced that the Z340 had finally been cracked, but not by professional law enforcement. The amateur team of sleuths who decoded the cipher included David Orchat, a software developer in Virginia, Sam Blake, an applied mathematician in Melbourne, Australia, and Jarl Van Ecke, a warehouse operator and computer programmer in Belgium. The text is said to read.
So to start with, there was a letter sent with that cipher.
Yes.
Stating, sorry, I haven't written, but I just washed my pen. This is the Zodiac speaking. I thought you would need a good laugh before you hear the bad news. You won't get the news for a while yet. And he asked, could you print this new cipher in your front page? I get awfully lonely when I'm ignored. So lonely, I could do my thing. And I can't, and what was weird is off to the side of that letter, in different handwriting, there is and I can't do a thing with it. That made no sense. It didn't fit anywhere into the letter. So then we go into the actual 340 cipher. Just a second for that report to load.
It's okay. You're good.
So basically, one of the things, aside from the thrill and the rush he got out of not being able to be caught and found out from the killing, was he would do it simply out of boredom.
He didn't like being lonely.
Do you think he may have had a form of DID?
Quite possibly. And his most dangerous alter may have completely taken over.
Which is why which would be not a great, but a decent explanation for why in different handwriting, because as far as I am aware, when it comes to DID and those kind of disorders, different personalities have different handwritings, different ways their bodies work. Like it's a literal shift in your body. So could it be with a different handwriting? No, I'm not saying it's inherently violent. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that is it possible he had a form of it? PTSD is also likely because it can mimic the same kind of symptoms. But at
that's what happened to me.
DID is an actual brain snap. Like DID itself is not a violent disorder. No one is claiming that.
And I was actually misdiagnosed with DID a couple years ago when I escaped my abusive ex, until they were able to mark down and find out it was actually PTSD with borderline personality disorder, which my ex had caused. And that BPD can lead with PTSD to violent personas.
Which is why I would say that more likely the Zodiac would have had a form of violent BPD.
That would also
DID, because the thing is like, take for instance the suspect, Arthur Lee Allen. He could write with both his right hand and his left hand. So.
Right, and BPD and PSD do sound very plausible and mimic that kind of switch in personality, because I've seen it. I've seen how PTSD can, like, even without the BPD, I've seen how PTSD can fucking just wreck a person. Like, that shift. So it is
Severe
possible.
enough
It's just a
PTSD
thought.
or CPTSD can lead into personality switches.
Yes.
All right, I've got it now.
Yes. And no, ambidextrous is not only with DID. I'm just trying to think of a theory of why there would be random messages that don't make sense in different handwriting. Unless he had a partner.
The thing is it's different handwriting, but it's still controlled.
Right.
So, like, you have different handwriting as in completely different emotional things. This handwriting is, you can tell it's been done by the same person, but the emotion behind it is very vastly different. Like, when the Zodiac is angry, you can tell because he's got those big swoops and he's writing really hard, and there's pen splotches where he's pressing too hard and it's leaking ink. And then you have the very controlled, almost cursive, like when he's calm and collective, and then bold writing when he's threatening.
Yes.
That's the type of different
handwriting.
Right.
Okay, so this is what this cipher has been coded out as.
I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise, again spelled with a C, not an S. All the sooner because I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. So they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know my new life is life will be an easy one and paradise death. So the other one made a whole lot of sense. It was almost like it was an excerpt taken out of The Most Dangerous Game.
Right.
This one, some of the words didn't make sense, like what was with the death at the end.
Okay. So the next cipher that we have is Z13, sent April 20th, 1970. The killer's shortest cipher appears on the surface to be most important. It is preceded by the words, "My name is," and then the cipher. Would the killer reveal his name? Zodiac made a big promise about Z408 cipher, writing, "By the way, are the police having a good time with the code? If not, tell them to cheer up. When they do crack it, they will have me." This was far from true. The solution even contained the words, "I will not give you my name." Zodiac may have been lying again when he sent Z13 cipher, but on the other hand, the unbroken cipher that followed Z408 may have given him confidence to truly reveal something significant. One problem is that the message is short enough to offer multiple solutions. If we can get many different names out, how can we possibly decide which is correct? One solution put forth years ago, which I believe is correct, is Alfred E. Newman, the mascot of Mad Magazine. I think putting this ridiculous name forward as his identity matches the killer's sense of humor. Also, the first three cipher symbols in Z13 are AEN, Newman's initials.
Well, not only on that potential possibility, but he had a lot of anagrammic spelling errors that could have led to another message, followed by the unsolved cipher. It's very possible he gave a big hint in the cipher that was unsolved.
Right. Can you find that one, babe? Because I know it's not cracked, but...
No, but I do have it.
Okay, Z13, yeah.
And I do have the letter that's written underneath it.
Okay, so Em's going to read the letter that came with this cipher, because the cipher today still is not cracked.
And I also have the Z32 letter.
Okay, which is the next one on the list.
So this is the Zodiac speaking. By the way, have you cracked the last cipher I sent you? My name is, and then the cipher. I am mightily curious as to how much money you have on my head now. I hope you do not think that I was the one who wiped out that Blue Meanie with a bomb at the cop station, even though I talked about killing school children with one. I just wouldn't do to move in on someone else's territory. But there is more glory in killing a cop than a kid. Mind you, he is spelling, like, his spelling in this has very much degraded. It has degraded a lot. He's spelling kid with a C. I think he meant to say dare, but it's spelled D-O-O. Curious was spelled C-E-R-O-U-S. Writing almost in medieval Old English. Because a cop can shoot back. I have killed 10 people to date. It would have been a lot more, except that my bus bomb was a dud. I was swamped out by the rain we had a while back. So this indicates that he was full bore in his intention of putting that bomb on the school bus, but by some stroke of luck, it started pouring down rain while he walked with that bomb. That is what he threatened with that letter. That, oh yeah, I was ready to put this bomb in this bus, but then it rained out the bomb and it fucked my bomb up.
Right. Okay. So, we move on to cipher Z32, sent June 26, 1970. Sometimes known as the map code, because it came with a map of San Francisco Bay Area, Z32 is the Zodiac's strangest cipher. A symbol closely resembling the crosshair image used by Zodiac to sign many of his messages appears on the map as a compass, with the instructions 0 is to be set to mag N. This is one of several indicators that the Zodiac was of above average intelligence. How many people would bother to distinguish north as magnetic north? What sort of work was the killer engaged in that made it important to him to know the difference? The compass is centered at Mount Diablo. Why? What made this location special to Zodiac? The killer wrote, "The map coupled with this code will tell you where the bomb is set." In a later letter sent July 26, 1970, he provided a clue. P.S. The Mount Diablo code concerns radians and number of inches along the radians. Does Z32 cipher use numbers to indicate a position on the map? Kevin Knight's artificial intelligence program, Carmel, can easily investigate such possibilities systematically and can provide some interesting results.
So I just had an idea as to why they couldn't solve the cipher. A cipher within a cipher.
It's possible.
So, actually, this is interesting because I have this article pulled up of this man who, during lockdown, has been trying to decode these last messages.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very possible that he may have actually decoded it.
Nice. Let's read him.
So, this is the Zodiac speaking. I have become very upset with the people of San Fran Bay Area. They have not complied with my wishes for them to wear some nice buttons with my crosshair. I promised to punish them if they did not comply by annihilating a full school bus spelled with 2 S's. But now school is out for the summer, so I punished them in another way. I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38. And then you have the crosshairs with the -12, SFPD-O. The map coupled with this code will tell you where the bomb is set. You have until next fall to dig it up. They never cracked that code. This man believes, according to the calculations, Queenie might be right, but not in the way he thinks he is. Because up until now, all the Zodiac messages have been numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if it was numbers and letters? I mean, letters and they have been letters, but what if they were what if this one was numbers and letters, like a longitude and latitude?
It's highly likely.
This man believes that this may translate to Labor Day, find 45.06 north, 58.719 west. which while she's going into the next one, I'm going to look up that longitude and latitude and tell you where it actually is.
You can always count on someone who's autistic and incredibly intellectual to think outside of the box of ciphers.
That was the last cipher that I had that the History Channel talks about.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did find an article also by the History Channel titled "First Look: Exclusive Documents from a Zodiac Killer Reporter." Follow leads, read articles, and attempt to crack a case that remains unsolved to this day. This was updated on August 30th, 2018. And it has 30 images. So this is concerning Arthur Lee Allen, who is one of the Zodiac Killer suspects. This document contains an arrest memo for Arthur Lee Allen, a Zodiac Killer suspect. Filled with personal identifying information, this document was originally meant to be used within the criminal justice system. The second document, front page of a handwritten note exploring the connections between the possible Zodiac killer Arthur Lee Allen and the alignment of planets in astrological signs. And here I will change this real quick to pull this up. Okay. So this is what this looks like. So that is one of them. The back page of the handwritten note exploring the connections between the possible Zodiac killer Arthur Lee Allen and the alignment of the planets of astrological planets. So this is what the back of that letter looks like. And these are, like I said, exclusive documents from a investigator. Fourth document, police note on favorite Zodiac suspect of San Francisco PD, Arthur Allen Lee, included a handwritten note indicating the initials AA appeared in the Zodiac cipher. So we have from there, we have another police note on favorite Zodiac suspect of San Francisco PD, Arthur Lee Allen. Added notes included that Allen was sent to the state hospital for molesting kids, is ambidextrous, and keeps bodies of small animals in fridges. So this is that document. Next is the Zodiac Killer ciphers and astrological connections. Document 6 is a probable source of the Zodiac Killer ciphers. This note discussed the connections between the book A History of Secret Societies by Akron Darrell and the Zodiac's ciphers. The Zodiac used 3 pairs of matching letters and symbols from the marked list. So, probable source of the Zodiac cipher symbols is the book by Archon Darrell, The History of Secret Societies. Zodiac used 3 pairs of matching letters and symbols from the marked list, reserve F and D, the triangle for the I, and the T for the O. 10 of the symbols were switched by the Zodiac to different letters. A dozen others were used within minor variation. Symbols reportedly were secret writings of the highest degree of the Order of the Illuminati, organized in Bavaria in the 18th century as an anti-clerical society. Some persons have claimed the Illuminati ruled the world from behind the scenes. Queenie, you're giving us a bad echo.
Oh, I was gonna mention, like, one of the things you have to admire about people like the Zodiac Killer is they were honest with who they were and they didn't deny it.
What do you got, babe? Did you find anything else?
It's just Is there any, like, letters or... Do you want to hear the poem that he carved into the roadside desk?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
December 1966. Okay. So, he titled this poem, Sick of Living / Unwilling to Die. It reads, cut, clean, if red, clean, blood spurting, dripping, spilling, all over her new dress. Oh well, it was red. Anyway, life draining into an uncertain death. She won't die this time. Someone will find her. Just wait till next time. R.H.
R.H.?
R.H.
Huh.
That was followed 6 months later by, 6 months later, because April is the 6th month of the year, right?
Yes.
6 months later by the envelopes and letters addressed to Sherry Bates' father and 2 other places, stating, and I quote, Bates had to die, there will be more.
What'd you say it was a 6 month?
So, now that we've talked about the murders, now that we've talked about the ciphers, now that we've talked about all the facts of the case that we know of, over the years, Zodiac buffs have suggested dozens of possible suspects based on speculation and circumstantial evidence.
Also, the whole Zodiac thing possibly was a woman. Not a thing.
No, not a thing. I know American Horror Story made it a thing, and I love it as a concept for the show. Not
yes,
accurate.
for the show it's great, but that's not the accurate.
That's cool story for the show, not accurate to the case. So over the years, Zodiac buffs have suggested dozens of possible suspects based on speculation and circumstantial evidence. Conspiracy theorists have fingered Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, Wichita's BTK killer, or members of the Charles Manson family. A handful of publicity seekers claim their fathers were the Zodiac. In recent years, absurd allegations have spread on social media, including the Texas Senator Ted Cruz was the Zodiac, even though he was born 2 years after the first confirmed killings.
Yeah.
The level of crackpottery in Zodiac case is stunning, says Michael Butterfield, a writer who spent 20 years researching the case and runs the website ZodiacKillerFacts.com. Most of the people we refer to as suspects aren't really suspects at all, just somebody that somebody accused whose name got repeated online, even though there was never anything there. However, there are 8 who generated the most interest as suspects. Do you want to help me go through these? Lawrence Kane, first up. So while she looks up all of the Lawrence Kane facts, here's a small summary of why Lawrence Kane was suspected. Kane worked in the same Lake Tahoe hotel as Donna Lass, who disappeared in 1970 and may have been another Zodiac victim. He served in the Naval Reserves, where he might have learned coding, and in 1962 car accident left him with a brain injury that could have compromised his ability to control urges. He was arrested for peeping in 1961 and for prowling in 1968. A retired police detective investigating the case in the 1980s claimed that Kane's name was embedded in one of the Zodiac ciphers, and that Darlene's sister Linda had identified a photo of Kane as the man she said had bothered Darlene at a restaurant. A San Francisco police officer who probably saw the Zodiac moments after Stein's murder said Kane's photo was closer than any other likeness he had seen. Kathleen Johns, who escaped from a man believed to be the Zodiac in Modesto in 1970, was also identified a photo of Kane as the abductor. So that is the brief overview. She's got more specifics.
Okay. Can I get one of my energy drinks? I just need something to drink.
You're good, baby.
Okay. So, Lawrence Kane. First of all, not even his actual name. Sweet.
Oh,
Lawrence Klein was born April 29th, 1924 in Brooklyn, New York. Klein would go on to use many aliases, including Larry Kane, which is something that they thought was interesting with the whole Zodiac alias.
Mm-hmm.
Kane had a lengthy criminal rap sheet dating back to the 1940s. Pam Huckabee, sister of Zodiac victim Darlene Ferrin, claims Kane followed Darlene in the months before her murder. So it was not just, oh, he showed up one day and was harassing her. He had supposedly been stalking her for months. Additionally, possible Zodiac victim Kathleen Johns identified Kane as her abductor. In 1969, during the peak of Zodiac activity, Kane was 45 years old. He stood 5'9" and weighed approximately 160 pounds. His astrological sign also was a Taurus. They were doing that with everybody because, you know, Zodiac. As a result of massive brain damage from a 1962 auto accident, Kane was allegedly diagnosed by a psychologist in 1965 as losing the ability to control self-gratification. Kane was arrested in Redwood City, California in August 1968. The arrest was just 4 months before Zodiac's first San Francisco Bay Area murders of December 20th, 1968.
All right.
He died May 20th, 2010 in Reno, Nevada.
So we move on to the next suspect, Ross Sullivan. So, a brief overview of why he was suspected. In 1966, murder of Sherry Jo Bates in Riverside, California, bore many similarities to the Zodiac killings. Staffers at Riverside College Library, near where Bates's body was found, said a co-worker, Ross Sullivan, had made them uncomfortable and disappeared for several days after the murder. Sullivan also sported a crew cut and glasses similar to the composite sketch of the Zodiac. He moved to Northern California in 1967 and was hospitalized several times for bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Sullivan wore an army jacket and military-style boots like those that left footprints at Lake Berryessa stabbings. Zodiac buffs also note that his letters mention the Mikado by Gilbert and Sullivan, which could be a reference to Sullivan's name. So she's looking up more on Ross Sullivan as well.
So, he was actually indicted as a suspect by Riverside City College Library. Which is interesting because that's where they found that poem.
The poem.
I took a bite of food. I'm sorry. Here is an extract from the letter sent by the Riverside City College Library staff regarding their favorite suspect, Ross Sullivan. The first thing we noticed that even they admit that police had told them Ross Sullivan had an alibi for the time period of Sherry Jo Bates' murder. This clearly wasn't enough for the amateur sleuths of the Riverside City College Library, who went on to compile a horrifying list of infractions and suspicious behavior perpetrated by Ross Sullivan. These included his potential for doing harm. Although we have no cited example of harm inflicted upon any of the library staff, however, what he potentially could have done is possibly a cause for concern. He bragged about escaping over the wall from Patton State Mental Hospital, which doesn't equate to being a murderer, but is suspicious. The library staff member stated, "I wish I could remember the poem about the cataloging boss he and I both had. I remember that she did not understand the poem he wrote. I didn't either, but was frightened by it. Frightened by a poem you neither understand and can't remember is terrifying enough on its own. We could see him from the cataloging department. He was like a statue, always there. Clearly he was a menacing statue, not moving, but an ominous presence nevertheless. When the murder happened, I stated to my fellow workers that when Ross reappeared on campus because he was not around the day after the murder, and if he had on different clothes, then he would be guilty in my mind until someone proved him innocent. Sure enough, it was a few weeks before he reappeared at his spot on the pit wall, and he had on a totally new set of clothes. One rainy night, after he was back in Riverside, I stopped at a liquor store in Market Street. I pulled up alongside a car that was parked just in front of the store doors. I ran inside, but left the doors unlocked as I always do. When I ran back to my car, something told me to do a very strange thing. I ran around to the passenger side, and in a flash, I had the door open and was inside, and the door locked behind me. Just at that instant, Ross came from a large hedge in front of my car door and walked in between the two cars and out of the parking lot. He did not look at me. Needless to say, I drove out of there as quickly as possible. Ross apparently parked a motorbike close to one of the facility members' car each day during the fall of 1966. That faculty member also put Ross at the top of his list as suspect in the murder. Apartment residents near the murder site recall hearing a motorbike start up just after the scream stopped. There are half a dozen or so of us at Riverside City College that agree on a suspect, but it isn't the one the police are interested in. So everybody at Riverside City College were absolutely convinced for a very long time that Ross Sullivan was the Zodiac Killer. Nothing came to fruition, though.
Now, we move on to our third suspect. One that was mentioned earlier, Arthur Lee Allen. So, not only are we going to go why he was suspected, but the History Channel also texts about why he was ruled out. So, why was he suspected? Portrayed as the prime suspect in Robert Graysmith's book, one of which was the basis for the 2007 movie Zodiac, Allen was questioned by police in 1969 and again in 1971. After a friend told authorities Allen had talked about wanting to kill people and secure a flashlight to a firearm as the Zodiac did. Allen wore a Zodiac brand watch, owned the same caliber gun used in one of the Zodiac shootings, and told the police the bloody knives in his car were used for killing chickens. He was less than honorably discharged from the Navy and had been fired from his school teacher job amid sexual misconduct allegations. He was also ambidextrous, which some theorists say could have helped disguise his handwriting. Police investigated Allen again in 1991 after an informant facing armed robbery charges said Allen had boasted to him about killing a cab driver. At that point, Michael Magoo, who survived the Valjo attack, identified a photo of Allen as the shooter. In the 2007 movie victim Darlene Ferrin's sister Linda also identified a photo of Allen as the man she said had stalked her sister. According to the film, police were closing in when Allen died. Why was Allen ruled out? Allen seemed like a good suspect as long as you only get information from people who think he's guilty, says Butterfield. Allen didn't match witnesses' descriptions of the Zodiac. His fingerprints didn't match those found in Paul Stein's cab and believed to be the Zodiac's. His palm print didn't match one found on the Zodiac letter, and his DNA did not match the partial DNA profile created in 2002 from saliva on an envelope believed to be the Zodiac's. 2 searches of Allen's home found no incriminating evidence. Police had samples of his right and left handwriting, and neither matched the Zodiac's. The 2007 film contained many fictitious events, Zodiac researchers say. Police consider Magoo's photo ID to be weak, and the movie The Scene with Darlene's sister never occurred. Allen died of a heart attack in 1992.
Okay. So this goes into like very bad detail because
Let's do it. I'm
It's-
in. Let's go into this. Why in the hell was
Arthur Lee Allen.
Arthur Lee Allen, thank you, suspected of being the Zodiac?
Well, you notice all the connections they all have, right?
Yeah, the military.
Military and
Military,
mental illness.
ambidextrous, and very much a heavily mentally illness. This is what the police were looking for. This was the profile that they had. So when we said earlier it's possible he had cop connections, military connections, it is what the police were looking at. So what is the more detailed explanation of his?
Okay. Arthur Lee Allen's connection to the Zodiac Killer began on October 30th, 1966. Hey, Danny. Good.
Just finish the dishes.
Oh, okay. It was starting to get really loud.
Okay.
Began on October 30th, 1966, when Sherry Jo Bates was stabbed to death at Riverside City College in Riverside, California. In late November 1966, 2 anonymous typewritten Bates murder confession letters were mailed to the local police and newspaper. The typewriter was identified as being a royal model with either elite or pica type. Allen allegedly was in Riverside the weekend Bates was murdered. The information placing Allen in Riverside was developed in 1971 by the Vallejo Police Department and the California Department of Justice. Allen later hinted it was true, first claiming to have been in the area at the time, then telling people he was in nearby Pomona when he first heard of the Bates murder. Employed as an elementary school teacher in California's Calaveras County at the time of the Bates murder, by the time his employment ended in late March 1968, Allen had only used 1 of 19 available 6 days. The day Allen was absent was November 1st, 1966. Initially, Allen attributed the absence to school business. He was later charged with a sick day. Did Allen stay an extra day or two in Riverside gathering his secondhand information to use in the anonymous confession? Or did Allen actually kill Bates, missing work on November 1st because of facial wounds inflicted by his victim? Modern FBI profiles and serial killers usually say that during periods of activity, the killer will behave erratically, exhibit moodiness, drink or smoke more than usual, and miss work. During the execution of a 1991 search warrant, GPD seized a royal typewriter with elite type from the home of Allen. In late April 1967, 3 anonymous letters referring to Bates were mailed. In 1970, Sherwood Morrell, head of the Question Documents section of California's Criminal Identification and Investigation Bureau, determined them to be the work of Zodiac. Each contained double the necessary postage as a Zodiac trademark. 2 of these 3 letters were signed with an unusual symbol. Some believe that the symbol resembles a sloppy Z. Others say it looks like a 32. At the time Bates was killed, Allen was 32 years old, and his permanent residence was 32 Fresno Street in Vallejo, California. In 1970, Zodiac would create a cipher that contained 32 symbols. At the approximate time the 3 letters were mailed, a desk was discovered on the RCC canvas that had a morbid poem scratched into the surface, possibly referring to the Bates murder. In 1970, Morrell claimed the poem was definitely the work of Zodiac, although other experts believe the condition of the desk prevented authentication. The poem was signed R.H. The president of RCC at the time Bates was murdered was R.H. Bradshaw, a detail a stranger to the area probably wouldn't have known. Interestingly, after establishing the moniker Zodiac, the only reference Zodiac ever made to the Bates murder came in a letter to the Los Angeles Times, postmarked March 13, 1971, where Bates was a student, was founded on March 13, 1916. Timing his letters to be postmarked on a significant date was a Zodiac specialty, and the time reference to Bates is another example of this. The Bates murder was initially merely local news, not likely to have gotten much exposure outside of the Riverside area. If Zodiac didn't actually kill Bates, which is a strong possibility, he at least had enough knowledge of the crime to produce an anonymous confession. A strong case can be made that the Zodiac had ties to the Riverside area. Allen certainly did. To date, even though it was an item it was looking for in the 1991 search, BPD has not attempted matching Allen's typewriter to that of the anonymous confession, despite the fact that it was a Royal brand elite type, which is exactly the same typewriter that they suspected. They never actually matched it up.
Right.
According to his brother Ron, Allen was given a Zodiac watch on Christmas as a Christmas gift from their mother in 1967. Allen's estimation of when he received the watch was July or August 1969, so that's already two completely different methods of timeline. The logo for the Zodiac watch is a cross-circle symbol, the same as eventually used by the Zodiac Killer. According to police statements, within days of receiving the watch, Allen is alleged to have made these claims to his friend Don Chaney. Allen used the premise of writing a novel to communicate this fantasy. Chaney estimates the conversation took place on January 1st, 1969. He would like to kill couples at random. He would taunt the police with letters detailing his crimes. He would sign the letters with the cross-circle symbol from his watch. He would call himself Zodiac. He would wear makeup to change his appearance. He would attach a flashlight to the barrel of his gun in order to shoot at night. He would fool women into stopping their cars in rural areas by claiming they had problems with their tires, then loosen their lug nuts and eventually take them captive. Don eventually took this information to the police, and in 1972, San Francisco Police Department were able to secure a search warrant against Allen as the Zodiac Killer. Unfortunately, they elected to search a trailer that Allen frequented in nearby Santa Rosa instead of searching his home at 32 Fresno Street in Vallejo. Nothing incriminating was found. So that search warrant that takes away his incrimination, they never searched his home. That search warrant was done on a trailer that he frequented. According to a police statement, in the early 1968 conversation with his friend, Philip, Allen is alleged to have been fascinated with the concept of hunting people. According to Allen, people would have been more challenging to hunt than animals since they have intelligence. On July 31st, 1969, Zodiac mailed the cipher to the news media. Within days, it was solved and stated that the killing man was more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. Oh, okay, that's actually interesting. Because if they have this right, they spelled it exactly the way it was spelled, and I didn't notice this until I could actually read it out. Dangerous is spelled with an E at the end instead of an S, and animal is spelled A-N-A-M-A-L. Additionally, during a 1971 police interrogation, Allen offered the fact that as a youth he had read a book that had made a lasting impression on him. The book was called The Most Dangerous Game and was about hunting a man like an animal. On June 15, 1958, Allen was arrested by VPD and charged with disturbing the peace, not police, sorry, my bad. The result of an altercation with acquaintance Ralph Spinelli. The charges were dismissed on July 8, 1958. Zodiac would later taunt San Francisco Chronicle columnist Marco Spinelli in a letter postmarked July 8, 1974. According to the statement to police by family and friends prior to the publication of Zodiac's codes, Allen had possessions of codes featuring identical symbols. Additionally, Allen was known to use the same unusual spelling and phrases as Zodiac later used, such as spelling Merry Xmas with two S's instead of Merry X. spelling Merry Xmas with 2 S's at the end of Xmas and Mary with 1 R instead of the traditional way of MERRY makes MAS, and saying trigger mech instead of trigger mechanism. Alan would intentionally misspell words to be funny. In a 1969 letter, Zodiac used the term bussy work, which is jargon used by elementary teachers. Busy work is a technique used to keep children busy and therefore happy by assigning them menial tasks. Prior to his termination in March 6, 1969, Alan had almost 10 years of experience as an elementary school teacher. Despite its negative ramifications on his life, Alan continued to wear his Zodiac watch until it was seized during the execution of BPD's search warrant in 1991.
So I have a theory.
What's up?
That potentially there was more than one Zodiac Killer doing the ciphers because of all their connections.
That is very possible.
Yeah.
In late March 1968, Alan was fired from his job as an elementary school teacher. Now, this is a trigger warning. I read the statement earlier, but this is a trigger warning. Teacher for molesting a student. This was Alan's second career failure, as in 1958 he was less than honorably discharged from the Navy after 2 years of service. With no source of income, Alan moved back home with his mother and father at 32 Fresno Street in Vallejo. According to friends and family, Alan hated his mother and felt inferior around his father, Ethan. Ethan was a very successful military man. Certainly, being a child molester didn't help Arthur's status around the house. Alan began gaining weight and drinking heavily, eventually taking a part-time job as a service station attendant. By winter, Alan was in a downward spiral of depression and alcohol abuse, most probably amplified by 2 major stressors, his birthday and Christmas. The apparently motiveless Lake Herman Road murders occurred on December 20th, 1968, just between Alan's December 18th birthday and Christmas, December 25th. Profiles indicate serial killers are always active in areas they are very familiar with. Alan was living only about 7 minutes from the Lake Herman Road crime scene. He had an explosive temper and was known to park and drink alcohol in rural settings such as Lake Herman Road, and always carried weapons in his automobile. In 1991, the search warrant executed by VPD revealed Alan owned the same type of ammunition used to kill the victims of Zodiac's Lake Herman Road attack. Zodiac's Blue Rock Springs attack of July 4th, 1969 was the second within 7 months to occur on the eastern outskirts of Vallejo. This time, Zodiac was only about 4 minutes from Alan's home. Major holidays can bring out ugly behavior in people, and Alan was already dealing with unemployment and alcohol abuse. The male victim, Mike Magoo, survived the attack and gave police a description of Zodiac's car, brown in color, possibly a Corvair. And at the time, Alan had a friend, Philip, who was trying to sell his brown Corvair. According to a police statement, Philip's Corvair was parked in front of a service station in Vallejo, where Alan had recently been employed, and the key was inside the office. Philip had occasionally allowed Alan to drive the Corvair. The possibility exists that Alan either had a key to the car or to the service station where it was parked. Now, what do you find pretty interesting about that little statement right there? What is the key thing that took Ted Bundy down? His car.
His car, yeah, for the first murder.
And he kept driving the same car.
Also, when it comes to Ted Bundy, because I'm like, the Zodiac is your thing, and I love that we're doing this because I'm not like, the Zodiac was always interesting to me, but I've never like gone deep into this like this. For me, my deep dives always are Ted Bundy. And the fact that Ted Bundy continuously used the same name, always Ted, Teddy, Theodore, with everybody, the fact that he always wore similar outfits, the fact that he was very consistent in how he would get women into his car is what got him fucking caught.
Right. But in this case, it's stuff that is getting this man off.
Yeah.
Because it's the similar stuff, but they are looking in the wrong places, which is exactly what they did with Ted Bundy originally.
Yeah. Which is why Ted got away with it for so many fucking years. And why he went through so many goddamn states.
Additionally, there are potential connections between Blue Rock Springs victim Darlene Farron and Allen. In 1966 to 67, Farron worked as a waitress at the International House of Pancakes on Tennessee Street in Vallejo, less than 1/10 of a mile from Allen's home at 32 Fresno Street. About that time, Allen is alleged to have told Don Chaney that he was fond of a waitress from that restaurant. Also, according to police report, an unidentified male named Lee was known to associate occasionally with Darlene. Allen was known by his middle name, spelling it Lee. Lee. Until Lee is identified, the possibility exists that victim Farron might have known Allen. Finally, in 1971, Allen's father, Ethan, died. The date was March 17th, Darlene's birthday. It is yet another occasion when someone close to Allen died on a significant Zodiac date. According to police report in mid-1992, surviving Blue Springs victim Magoo picked Allen out of a VPD police lineup, saying, "That's him, he's the man that shot me." On September 27, 1969, Zodiac used a foot-long knife with a sheath and rivets to attack a young couple at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Just north of Vallejo, Allen, an outdoorsman, frequented recreational areas such as Berryessa often, trapping game, scuba diving, and camping. Allen was familiar with the Berryessa area and even told VPD Sergeant Lynch in an October 6, 1969 interview that the day of the attack he was going to go to Berryessa but went up the coast instead. Allen first used the mysterious couple from Treasure Island as an alibi, but could never produce their names or phone number. 1930s film Charlie Chan at Treasure Island featured a villain named Dr. Zodiac, who wrote taunting letters about his San Francisco crimes. Later, Allen attempted to use a deceased elderly neighbor as an alibi, claiming this neighbor, William White, had seen Allen the afternoon of the Berryessa attack and that the two had a conversation. At this time, another William White, a ranger from Napa County, was all over the news as a spokesman on the Berryessa attack. Neighbor White died within a couple weeks of this alleged encounter. His birthday was December 20th. During a 1971 police interrogation, Allen admitted to having possession of bloody knives the day of the Berryessa attack, claiming he used the knives to kill a chicken. Allen's physical appearance and voice were the same as Zodiac's, according to the surviving Berryessa victim, Brian Hartnell. So this is the second time he's been identified. For him, not just his look, but his voice. Hartnell had been taken to see Allen at his place of employment by a DOJ representative in the mid-1970s. Zodiac left 10.5 footprints at the crime scene. According to a police report, Allen wore size 10.5. In 1991, the search warrant executed by VPD revealed Allen owned a foot-long knife with a sheath and rivets. To date, even though it was an item it was looking for, VPD had not attempted matching Allen's knife to the wounds of the Berryessa victims. They searched the wrong home. They did not compare his typewriter to the letters. And now they found an exact match of knife, but they did not attempt to match it to the wounds. Paul Stein. When Zodiac hailed Paul Stein's cab in San Francisco on October 11th, 1969, his original destination was Washington and Maple Street in Cristino Heights, an intersection featuring a school crosswalk. Amazingly, the address Stein was headed when he encountered Zodiac was 509th Avenue, the Allen's Arms Apartments. On October 13th, 2 days after killing Stein, Zodiac mailed a letter threatening school children. Exactly 1 week earlier, Allen had been interviewed at by VPD's Lynch at the elementary school where Allen worked as a janitor. If Lynch had asked to see Allen's driver's license, he might have noticed that the issue date was October 13th. According to a police report in 1991, Allen's old nemesis, Ralph Spinelli, came forward to VPD claiming that just prior to Stein's murder, Allen had admitted he was Zodiac and would prove it by going to San Francisco and killing the cabbie. After killing Stein, Zodiac took his wallets, car keys, and a portion of his shirt. In no other attack did Zodiac take items from his victim. It is a matter of fact that Zodiac did prove he was Stein's killer, and he did so by including scraps of Stein's bloody shirt in his subsequent taunting letters to the news media. One such letter was postmarked November 9th, 1969, and contained a bomb diagram. Ingredients for the bomb included ammonium nitrate, fertilizer, and gravel. Zodiac claimed in the letter that the bomb was being stored in his basement and that his killing tools were acquired through mail-order outfits. In 1991, the search warrant was executed by VPD, revealed Allen had in his basement handwritten diagrams for bombs composed of ammonium nitrate, fertilizer, and gravel. Also were found were mail-order catalogs for bomb guns and booby traps. Yeah. Allen and Stein had much in common. Both were students. Both had the middle name Lee, spelled Leigh by Allen. And both were born on December 18th. Perhaps December 18th was the most significant zodiac date of them all. So this will lay out a complete detail of the police interaction as the final part 2.
Okay.
Arthur Lee Allen's timeline. This timeline is based on official police reports, social security records, employment applications, motor vehicle records, and testimonies from friends and law enforcement officials. Most of the information about this suspect found elsewhere is grossly inaccurate. December 18th, 1933, Arthur Lee Allen was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. Allen was reared in Vallejo, California, and graduated from Vallejo High in 1950. It is suspected that Zodiac had very close ties to Vallejo, most likely as a resident. 1948 to 1957, Allen attended Vallejo College, majoring in liberal arts. He received his associate's arts degree in 1957.
Holy shit, what the fuck?
Get her! Sorry, guys.
Our cats went fucking ape shit.
Move. Go.
What happened?
Valkyria just come out of the litter box.
Are you okay, baby? Come here.
And Raven went bat shit.
Yeah, no, the matron of all these fucking cats, Raven, has been she's crawling out the door, Danny.
There's nothing I can do about that.
Put her in our room.
We got a new kitten, and the matriarch has fucking gone ape shit the past couple days. Like we apologize for the interference of the asshole.
That's what happens when you have a shit ton of cats. They push
You
each
know-
other's boundaries to see what they can get away with.
You know what?
Valkyria was coming out of the litter box and Raven went batshit crazy on her.
Make sure it latches. Okay.
That's just how cats are.
They latched.
Okay,
Like,
so back
they will
back
push boundaries.
right. So back to our regular scheduled program as we check on the poor baby who was attacked.
1948 to 1957, Allen attended Vallejo College, majoring in liberal arts. He received his Associate's of Arts degree in 1957. 1951 to 1952, Allen worked as a lifeguard at the Plunge in Vallejo. 1953, Allen worked as a sailmaker at Mare Island Naval Shipyard in Vallejo, California. 1954 to 1960, Allen attended Cal Poly State College in San Luis, California. Majoring in elementary education, he received his bachelor's degree in 1960. 1957, Allen enlisted in the U.S. Navy. Zodiac was sought to have affiliation with the military, most likely the Navy. June 15, 1958, Allen was arrested by the Vallejo Police Department for disturbing the peace as a result of an altercation with acquaintance Ralph Spinelli. The charges were dismissed on July 8, 1958. Zodiac demonstrated an animosity towards the police that could stem from a perceived mistreatment. December 1958, Allen was discharged from the Navy. 59 to 62, Allen attempting to gain his teaching credentials, was hired by the Santa Rosa Elementary in Esparto, California. 61 to 62, worked 2 summers as a psychiatric technician at the state hospital. 62 to 63, taught at Travis Elementary, Travis Air Force Base, California. He was eventually fired for having a loaded weapon in his car on secure school grounds. 64 to 65, Allen was incapacitated with a severely lacerated leg as a result of a motorcycle accident. 66 to 68, taught at Valley Springs Elementary in Valley Springs, California. His teaching career ended when he was fired for molesting a student. December 68, Allen's mother Bernice gave him a Zodiac watch as a gift. January 1969, allegedly confided in Don Cheney that he intended to kill couples at random, threatened school children, and taunting letters to police and called himself Zodiac. April 4th, 1969, living back at home with his parents, Allen was terminated from his part-time job working at a gas station where he had worked for approximately 6 months. Described by the former employer as being undependable with a drinking problem. He also stated that Allen was too interested in small girls. 69. Shortly after the murder of Darlene Farron, a relative of victim informed investigators that Darlene had a relationship with some sort of man named Lee. Was employed during 1969-70 school year. Was employed part-time as janitor at Elmer Cave Elementary School in Vallejo. October 6, 1969, was questioned by Detective John Lynch, BPD, regarding the murder of Cecil Shepard at Lake Berryessa. It is unknown who turned Allen in as a suspect or why. Allen later admitted to being in the area of Lake Berryessa at the time of the murder. Now, October 10, 1969, Al supposedly told Ralph Spinelli he would soon be going to San Francisco to kill a cabbie. 1970 to 74, Allen attended Sonoma State College, majoring in biological science with a minor in chemistry. Completed all academic requirements in 1974, but did not receive his Bachelor of Science degree until after July of 1981. During Allen's stint at Sonoma State, the Zodiac murders ceased. However, the Sonoma co-ed killings began. According to retired Special Agent Jim Silver of the California Department of Justice, if you map where the Cohens were last seen and they were later found dead, Allen's trailer would be directly in the center. Eventually, many other murders were suspected of being the work of Zodiac. One investigator theorized the Zodiac was choosing crime scenes to form a giant Z. So, that begs the theory that the Sonoma Cohen killings were done by Arthur Lee Allen. So they would, if he is the Zodiac Killer, would be classified as Zodiac murders. March 17, 1971, his father dies at the age of 67, was retired, highly decorated naval commander. Ethan Allen died on what would have been Darlene Ferrin's 24th birthday. When Allen became a suspect, this was looked at with suspicion. 71, Allen was employed as a junior chemist in an oil refinery in Pinole, California. July 15, 1971, the Manhattan Police Department was contacted by Allen's former friend, to whom Allen allegedly made the incriminating statements in January 1968. 1971, a report was prepared by MBPD for Inspector Toshi of the San Francisco Police Department. July 27th of that year, the inspectors, along with Special Agent Mel Nikolai from CII, traveled to Vallejo to meet with Sergeant Jack Molnex of VPD regarding Allen. It was decided that more background information on Allen would be obtained before anyone made contact with him. August 4th, they interviewed Allen at his place of employment. The last authenticated Zodiac letter had been mailed in March 1971, just a few months earlier. However, after Allen's interview, it would be 2.5 years before the Zodiac would write again. September 14, 1972, they obtained a search warrant against Allen and made him submit handwriting samples. Detectives found several bizarre items during the search, but nothing that would incriminate Allen in the Zodiac crimes. September 27, 1974, arrested by the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department on charge of child molesting. March 14, 1975, after pleading guilty, Allen began serving his sentence at the state hospital. August 31st, 1977, completed his sentence and was released. January 3rd, 1978, was hired as a fleet mechanic by Benicia Import Auto Services. This ended on March 3rd, 1978, due to a slowdown in business. June 25th, 1978 through 1987, Allen found sporadic employment in Vallejo, including a stint as an aide to senior citizens. Allen also worked at Ace Hardware in Tennessee Street for several years as a buyer for the tool and garden department. January 10th, 1989, Bernice Allen died at age 83. February 14th, 1991, they executed a search warrant against Allen and found a huge cache of weapons. Allen's probation terms did not disallow owning weapons. Enraged at the search, Allen began granting interviews with the news media to proclaim his innocence and blast the police. There was a huge amount of circumstantial evidence against Allen, including Ralph Spinelli coming forward with Allen's incriminating statements of October 10, 1969. August 1st, 1991, Allen gave an interview to the Fairfield Daily Republic in which he had claimed to have consulted with attorney Melvin Belli. Zodiac had written a letter to Belli in December 1969. July 1992, definite Zodiac victim Mark Magoo picked Allen out of the police photo lineup, saying, "That's him, he's the man who shot me." August 26, 1992, Arthur Lee Allen dies of natural causes at age 58. August 28th, 1992, BPD obtained a search warrant and found many interesting items. Been extremely secretive about the results of this search. The objective was to seize a videotape Allen had in possession that was labeled with a Z. The exact contents of the video had never been revealed, although BPD says there was no confession. So what they grabbed in the search: videotape, letter Z, bookcase, glass wall. Erickson computer with printer, yellow disc catalogs, programs with disc, fruit juice recipe, bomb formula, box with blank note paper, strips of paper with math, among other things. So, do I wholeheartedly believe that Arthur Lee Allen is the most likely person to have been the Zodiac? Yes. Yes, I do. Was he ever convicted of it? No. But the police departments fucked up hard with their investigation of him.
As we see in almost every fucking serial killer from that fucking time period, the cops just are like, all right. That's how Jeffrey Dahmer got off with his first fucking murder.
Yes.
The guy literally escaped, walked it down the road, naked, bleeding. And all Jeffrey had to say is, oh, my partner's a little drunk. And because they were gay, or at least seen as gay, police said, all right, and moved on.
And the Zodiac killings happened during a time in California where there was a huge portion of the race war going on with gangs and all that stuff. So most reports about the Zodiac Killer, before they came in to be a connection of him being a white male, age 30 to 40, with light brown curly hair, were all either reports that they were African American in descent or Hispanic in descent.
And this is also during a time when you had Richard Ramirez also killing people, known as the Night Stalker. You had the Manson family in California. You had so many fucking shit going on.
And there was so much shit communication between states.
Between even precincts in the own insane fucking state.
Take, for instance, Vallejo and Sonoma. Vallejo, the Zodiac Killer and the Sonoma co-ed killer are considered to be two different people. But it is very likely that they were both the same person.
We also have this case when you look at Ted Bundy and one of the serial killers that was in Michigan at Eastern Michigan and Ann Arbor University of Michigan specifically. There are several bodies that were found in Michigan that police to this day are still not sure whether they belong to Michigan serial killer or Ted Bundy.
Yep.
To this fucking day. Like how do these people not get caught sooner? The BTK killer was working for how many fucking years?
Son of Sam was only caught because of a parking ticket.
Right, Son of Sam was only caught because of a parking ticket. Ted Bundy was only caught because of a random pullover with a taillight being out. You have fucking I just like Samuel Little, who is known as the most prolific serial killer in America, was literally killing for 2 fucking decades, and no one fucking caught him. Like, I can't even with sometimes with this shit, because it's like if one other thing had happened, these motherfuckers wouldn't have gotten the body counts that they did, and it's bullshit.
If they had, I wholeheartedly believe that they would have found out that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac if they had searched his home instead of the trailer he frequently visited. They never searched his home. They never matched up any of his weapons to the wounds. The typewriter was an exact physical match to the one that they believe was used, but they never matched up the typewriting. Because, well, what people don't realize is that the way that typewriters were made, they all had this unique identification thing. And they could have used that to match the typewriters. Also, the fact that all of the dates of killings and attacks corroborate to significant dates in Allen's life is another aspect that you have to look at. It's not just one or two. Every single one of those dates matched up with an important date in Allen's life.
What do you think, Queenie?
I honestly think the police really messed up and didn't complete their job as they should have when they were investigating.
Oh, geez, more reports of police being fucking stupid.
But here's the thing, like I mentioned in my theory, there was more than one and they knew each other to an extent. And that was how they prevented from any of them ever getting caught.
It is possible, which leads us into the other suspects. But like my girlfriend said, it's possible that Don Chaney, who was not even on the suspect list, was also involved. Like there is this idea that, especially when it comes to like the Zodiac, or take one of the most famous serial killers of all time, Jack the Ripper, who was never caught. We don't even know if it was a male or a female. There are theories of both. There are theories it was a team. It was a team of 2 or 3. We don't
My
know.
theory is Jack the Ripper was a woman because they were able to change into the clothes of the one they killed.
See, my theory, and I'm calling it a theory, Queenie. I will talk to about it with you in private. I don't think it should be talked about on live. But my theory is that it was actually a woman and a man, but the woman did the killings and the man worked as hard as he fucking could to cover it up. And the reason I think this is because in the Jack the Ripper case, the victims are prostitutes. They are women. The killings are between sometimes surgical in precision, sometimes brutal in precision, of removing female organs. It is my theory that it is either a midwife or a or a mortician's wife who was upset at these women, not because they were going out being prostitutes, but because it was possible that they sought abortions. And this woman possibly couldn't have children, so she decided to take her anger out on women who chose not to be mothers. And then the reason I think this is not only is the precision precise for what you would see as though it was a doctor or someone who was a mortician's wife, someone who knew the ins and outs of the body, but also the level of fucking aggression that came out that we could see and how these women were murdered. So that is my theory.
I have a theory.
You always have a theory.
Well, no, I've been chewing on this one for a while. Actually, you said it was prostitutes, right?
Yeah.
That were getting killed.
Yeah.
I think it was a mixture of both. Certain prostitutes were the husband because of the way the prostitutes worked.
Right.
My theory was it was mostly it was husband and wife working on it together, but it was the wife killing most of the prostitutes because as a punishment to the husband, not only was it the fact that she would kill these prostitutes, but that she would have him clean it up, and then certain prostitutes he would kill, and then she would clean up afterwards just to even out.
It could possibly be because if you look at the actual killings and knowing serial psychology, you start to see the sadomasochism, the absolute brutal domination of these women. It is possible that the woman herself was the dominant and forced him to kill certain prostitutes while she took her aggression on the other ones. Because either maybe he was unfaithful or, again, the abortion thing. There was so much shit going on in London at the time. There's multiple theories on why, who, and, methods. So it's this is why I like serial killers like the Zodiac and like Jack the Ripper, ones that were never caught, because it makes you even think deeper into their psychology. Like, who the fuck was it? Like, I want to know. I want to know what the fuck is going on. Amanda, get up here and talk about your theory. Get the fuck up here.
Are we finished talking about the Zodiac Killer?
Are we, or what? Is there any other aspects of the because you know the Zodiac Killer better than I do.
So
One, we don't tell Amanda what to do.
I love you.
Two, I don't have that one.
After
But
Arthur Allen's death,
no, I was just saying my theory on Jack the Ripper is similar, but it's still pretty different.
Okay, so hang on a sec, because was going over something about the Zodiac, and then we can switch to Jack.
So,
Jack the Killer.
unfortunately, after Arthur Lee Allen's death, when their main suspect is dead, why do they really want to keep going? The only thing that has ever really been investigated any further is about the cryptograms, and it's just because of morbid curiosity and what they say. But
And
other
like,
than
I
that,
believe there was a cipher in a cipher,
classified
which
as
is what made it so tricky to solve the last one.
after he died.
Fair. Okay, so what's your theory on Jack the Ripper, Amanda?
Well, I think again, I think it was Jill, but I think the man in question. I don't think the man in question was a husband. I think it was a son, and it was a weird, messed up
Oedipus complex.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah, it's possible.
that's.
I don't know.
Sorry.
We need to
My theory
do a
grosses
whole
me out, but
other
it feels the most-
live on Jack the Ripper, because I need a better background and we need to go over all those facts. But this is
I
a
actually
dry
have more
run.
knowledge on Jack the Ripper than I do the Zodiac, because I actually read the book that had the crime scene photos from Jack the Ripper.
Nice. Well, I will, when we do the Jack the Ripper thing, I will be sure to, like, we'll match up and we'll get all of our shit straight. This was really just a dry run of something that I've been thinking about doing more
on TikTok, though.
Amanda,
right, but
are you a fan of horror?
Huh?
Are you a fan of horror?
Was that a real question?
Yeah, I'm asking her. All right, I will have Gemini add you to my server on Discord.
Is it super, super social? Because right now I'm taking a mental health break from, like, big ass.
No, it's not super social. It's really just us posting random horror memes, artwork, talking about our favorite horror movies.
Okay, but how often are these random posts happening? That's the key. I had to, like, ended up leaving, like, a whole bunch because.
Let me know when your mental health is back in order, and then I will send it to you.
It's just not been good. I apologize.
It's okay, honey. I've been meaning to check on you. I've just gotten so fucking busy and sick and bullshit.
Fill from an empty cup.
I know. All right. Well, we are gonna hop off. Thank you guys for coming in. We'll probably be doing this more often if I can get Em to do it with me. I love you guys, and we will talk soon.
All right.